Hello and good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. I hope the weather is fantastic where you guys are as well.
Yeah, it's hot and sweaty.
I've been on the road for so long. I mean, it's one of those things where you don't you have to look at the weather forecast to figure out. I mean, if you're setting up your own stage and stuff, you've got to know what you're going into.
Yeah, it's always good to know. We can see what we're going to wear so we don't have to sweat.
Oh my God, isn't that the truth? Boy, that one right there, I've had to deal with that many times. And then it's like, okay, what can we get away with? What can't we? Okay, just make sure it's not part of the performance tonight.
Absolutely.
Kind of explains the name of the album then, Death, Oddities, and Romance. It's like you got to have them all in order to enjoy that life as a musician.
Yeah, a little bit.
Where did the name of it all come from?
So Draven and I were actually watching the show Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. And we were trying to come up with the EP name because we were going back and forth with it with the band. We were like, do we like this? Do we like that? So then we were like, okay, well, we like the three thing. We like the words, and words. So we were like, what do we want to do? And then I was kind of like, okay, well, I like death, and all of the songs, something is dealing with death. They're all characters in these stories. So they're kind of like, I first threw out like, oh, macabre. And he was like, no, I don't like that. And I was like, oh, what about oddities? And he goes, yeah, that sounds good. And I was like, and they all deal with like some sort of love aspect. So I was like, and romance. And he goes, oh, ampersand romance. And I was like, yeah, I really like that. So we pitched it to the band, and Brian was like, I don't like that. And I was kind of like, well, you don't have a choice. That's the EP name. Sorry.
It's almost got a dark side to it, but at the same time, on the opposite end of it, there's light. So it's almost like, good versus evil, but we're going to meet in the middle with oddities.
Absolutely. And like I said, each little snippet is its own story. So it tells this like whole storybook of like different characters.
Yeah. Now, your music comes with a purpose. It really is out there to help people with challenges. So therefore, when the album title comes out, I mean, you're facing the mirror.
Absolutely. And especially with this EP was more, like I said, geared like towards snippets of stories, but Postmortem was actually my own personal story. I was the character in that story. In 2017, I had an 8-centimeter ovarian cyst burst and bleed a liter of blood into my abdomen. I was rushed to the emergency room. The doctor said if I would have come in an hour later, I would have internally bled to death. I did not know what was going on, but fortunately they were able to catch it. They were able to remove it, get the blood out of my abdomen and laparoscopically and get it out. So I hadn't fully, the band had just started in 2017. We were 3 months in. So I hadn't fully healed from that. And I feel like I felt like I needed to write Postmortem as like, if I would have died that day, this would have been my final goodbye, because I struggled with depression, anxiety after my parents' divorce. And I thought of every single possible way of how I could just not be here. And I remember that day, I like begged the universe. I was like, I want to be here. I want to live. And luckily I got that chance to live. And I'm now 28 years old. So that happened when I was 22. And it was just, Postmortem is a testament of like, if something would have happened, this would have been my final goodbye.
Let me ask you a question, because I had a heart attack on July 21st, 2009, 6:15 p.m. And see, they're mile markers. And it's one of those things that now you go back and you look, were there any signs or did you leave any breadcrumbs behind that showed, wow, there could have been that moment where that was the final step?
I did a lot in my writing.
Yeah.
I've written since I was 14. I remember my mom got me a journal, and it was looking back at my writing now when I was 14, I was like, wow, that was dark. You could definitely tell something was wrong. But unfortunately, with my parents' divorce and my mom, at the time when I started developing that really hard depression, she was going through being diagnosed with Hashimoto's autoimmune disease. So she wasn't really all there. She was going to doctors and she was like, what's wrong with me? I'm gaining weight, but I'm eating healthy and I'm exercising. And they kept telling her, oh, you're just getting old. And she was 4. because she was 40. So she was like, that's not a reason that you just gain weight. But fortunately, a doctor saw that she had eczema on her skin. And she was like, that to me seems like you have an autoimmune. Your skin is attacking itself. Now she's somewhat medicated, and our relationship has gotten a lot better since then. But it was really difficult.
Wow. Let's talk about some of the music. Black Widow. I mean, those hard guitars and drums, and then all of a sudden, here come the vocals. Oh my God. It's like one layer is introduced to listeners one piece at a time.
Yeah. Black Widow, when that was first written, it was not written like that. And I really did not like it.
Wow.
Brian had a lead guitar over that, and I was like, I don't like this song. I don't want to write to this song. And then when I was sitting in my room, and I remember we had to write these songs because we were going to record with Justin from Miss May I. And Draven was like, I want to give him a metalcore song since he's a metalcore god. So we whipped this out, and I was sitting in my room, and I'm like, oh, God, I really hate this song. I don't like it, but I have to do something. I have to produce. And I messaged Brian. I was like, hey, what if it was just bass? Because I love Nickelback, and Nickelback has this groovy song with like a really like crazy bass line. I was like, what if it was just like bass? And so he wrote it with just bass, and I was like, okay, this sounds groovy, this sounds grungy. And then it like clicked in my head, and I wrote Black Widow. I was like, here you go, here you guys go. You've got the song.
Don't you love that adventure, though, when you are given a guitar riff and you want to change? But the thing is, though, is that the conversations that you have to have in order to get that change, to me, that's just part of the story. And that really does build up a base for that song to, to start materializing. No matter how strong the struggle, you find the light somewhere.
Absolutely. And it's like with our writing process, it's Brian and Draven write this song. They hand it to me. I tell them if I like it or not. They then workshop it again, and they hand it back. And I'm like, okay, this can be changed. Then they change it. Then we're the three of us. We're just back and forth all the time, just picking each other's brains. Like, how can we make this better? And we actually are going to sit down now and do that again, because we have to produce more music now.
Right. Do you ever market test it? I mean, with that fan base that you've got at that local level, just take it out there and find out how they react to it?
No, I find especially Draven is a little bit of a perfectionist.
Ooh.
So he likes to make sure that it's right in studio before we send it out. But now that we have access to Patreon, we're kind of doing that on Patreon. So if you subscribe, we have 3 tiers. If you subscribe to our Patreon, you do the $20 one, you will basically see every step of the way of the song. Like from its conception to the back and the forth to the lyrics, and you can also suggest things. So we're now starting to do that more on Patreon. We'll put something out on Patreon, and we'll see, hey, what do you guys think? And then we'll kind of come back and workshop that a little bit more.
Yeah. I love that idea because, I mean, people want to participate with the process of a song being created, and you're giving them a voice.
Well, exactly. And that's like our biggest thing, because I know for us as musicians, we don't write for ourselves. We write for our fans and what our fans want and to connect with them. So having Patreon, finally, we get to hear kind of their voice of what they want. And we have taken a lot of their suggestions, and a lot of good stuff is coming out of it. So like the fans know what they want. So it's like, let's ask them, what do you guys want? Help us out. We're on a block. And most of the time the fans will be like, this is what we want. Let's do it. And a lot of it, a lot of it you can kind of take with a grain of salt, but a lot of it does help us write and get inspiration on what to do.
Any radio people jump in there and help you guys out?
That's more of a question for Draven. I don't think so. I mean, we've had our friends who have been musicians jump in and help out. I know Justin definitely helped out with these songs. We were like, hey, radio marketability, what do you think? And he definitely helped in that aspect because he has so much experience with Miss May I. Yeah. But it's mainly past friends and musicians who have been in the scene, who have seen some success, will kind of guide us if we need a little bit of help with that.
See, I love that kind of stuff because they get to make a personal investment. I mean, I remember the days of music where bands couldn't come together because the record labels wouldn't let them borrow that artist at all. And they were so tied into that contract. But nowadays, everybody's helping everybody.
Oh yeah, and it's amazing because if someone like if I get stuck or I get a piece of writing that I don't know how to write to, it's nice to turn to other musicians and be like, what do I do? What do you hear that I don't hear? And I'll take what they have into consideration or vocal ideas or lyrics, and it just helps me as a musician grow and me as a writer gain more knowledge that I didn't know that I needed.
I want to see your songbook in the way that where the lyrics are there, because there's so many different times that the one who's writing the lyrics, we hear different things, but when you take it to the band, they hear something else, and you're forced to scratch something out and put something else in. That little struggle right there to me is part, it's that one thing. It's like, God, I wish I could I want to do it so bad when we're live. I want to go back to what I had original, but then it would mess up the band.
Yeah, it's that's always the hardest part, because for the most part the guys do take the lyrics and they're okay with it. But there are a lot of times where I know Draven will say, you could say this better, or Draven will give me like plain lyrics, like the moon was out tonight, and I'll be like, I walked outside in the wet grass and the moon shone, and he goes, wow, that's great. But I could never think about that. So, but mostly I write the lyrical content. They trust me enough, which I'm grateful, because I trust them enough with the instruments, because I know a little bit of guitar, but I know no instruments, so I trust them completely. So they hand the reins over lyrically and with the melody. They're like, here you go, we trust you.
I was going to ask about that trust, especially with the song Revenant, in the way that there's a nice long intro here. I mean, for your lyrics, I mean, it's like that you got to wait a while to get up there. It's a long driveway.
Oh, yes. That's Brian showing off per usual, which he's a great guitarist. So I let him have his little show off moments. But writing, you got to feel out the song. You got to know when the lyrics want to come in. And his guitar, the whole band just jamming out on that part, it just did that build up. Like, to me, like you're waiting for those lyrics to come. You're waiting for those vocals.
Yep.
And it was just like that perfect moment with like the big like crescendo with all like the strings in the back, and then we finally get the vocals. And I feel like it's just like chef's kiss. I love that song. It's perfectly written. Justin did help us kind of structure that a little bit. I mean, we needed a little bit of help with structure. So Justin was very adamant on the structure and how things flowed, and I think it turned out perfect.
How much of a struggle is it to keep your songs under 4 minutes?
It's not too much of a struggle, because like I said, Brian is a good guitarist, but Brian likes to keep things short, sweet, and to the point. So it's not too hard. And he's funny, because when we met him, he was like, I'm not a lead guitarist, I'm a rhythm guitarist. And then he pulls out these solos, and I'm like, yeah, okay, keep telling us how much of a rhythm guitarist you are. You're a lead. Stop. You know how to do leads. He's very humble. So he likes to keep things very short and sweet, and it's good, because then it keeps the song short and sweet, and it gets the lyrics across perfectly. Yeah, because it makes me want to go to the next song, and then the next song, and then you hit repeat and you start it all over again. It's it's not like I love me some Tom Petty, but some of those songs just got too long. Even Dave Matthews, it's like, God, please don't. Just give it to me. Yeah, it drones on too long, and like you said, it's like it'll make you want to go back and hear it again. And that's the biggest thing, replayability. Like, we want you to keep, like, come back for more, give you a little taste, come back for more, give you a little taste, come back for more. I want to see the light show for Graveyard Lovers. I know you're not going to just do a bunch of lights up there. You're going to play with that imagination. Oh yes, Graveyard Lovers is, I don't know how it was born out of a very heavy song, and it turned into a pop song, and I'm not mad at it.
Do you think, what are people doing? Have you played it live yet to where you can see how people are dancing to it?
We have played it live, and it's very mixed.
Yeah.
Because we were playing all this heavy stuff, and all of a sudden you play this like dancey song. We just played Reggie's, and in the middle of it, I was like, hey, Chicago dance. And I don't think metalheads know what to do. They're kind of like, this is a good song, but what the hell is going on? They're like, look at me. And they kind of bob their head and they rock back and forth. But I think they get very confused, and that's okay. That's okay because we were just as confused when it came out as well. I was very confused when I was like, I want to write, this is a pop song, guys. I want to write pop lyrics. And they were like, what? Like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I just think this poppy vibe. But people will kind of like bob their heads to it, and they will get into it. I mean, it is very catchy, but it definitely doesn't get the response as like a Heathen or a Falling Away where everybody's like wanting to mosh. It's definitely like, it's a shock to the system.
Yeah. To me, it'd be a crossover song, taking you from a new rock radio station into an adult top 40.
Well, exactly. And someone said it perfectly. They were like, as a metalhead, I'm listening to your guys' music and I get to the song. He goes, I don't necessarily hate it. He goes, but you have now opened me up to a possibility of a different genre.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I may like put that on every once in a while and, you know, give my head a good bop and a beat and like, maybe it'll grow on me. He goes, it's definitely like something in the middle that I would have never expected.
Yeah, because I would like to hear the early day Chad Kroeger songs compared to what really made them the global effect that they became.
Yeah, Nickelback, because I've listened to Nickelback from the beginning to now, and they're definitely way, way, way different.
Mm-hmm,
you definitely see your audience and you create a formula. And I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to feel our audience and create a formula. And one day we'll have some albums where we're like, yeah, you could definitely tell it's Bullet to the Heart.
Yep.
That's Bullet to the Heart.
Where can people go to find out more about the band and make that investment into the band? Because I mean, that to me is the new age of keeping bands alive.
Absolutely. So you can find us literally anywhere on social media. If you search Bullet to the Heart, you will find us, and we have everywhere that we have a link. There's a different link to somewhere else. If you go to Facebook and you search up Bullet to the Heart, we have a link tree, which will take you to everywhere you need to go. Spotify, Twitter, Apple, YouTube, our Big Cartel, which is our merch site, Twitch, where we play games 4 times a week, Patreon, TikTok. I mean, you will find anywhere you can search Bullet to the Heart, you are going to find us.
I love it, man. You got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Well, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. You too.